Yes.
Uh,
What's going on, man? How you doing?
yeah, I'm good, thank you. You good?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, man. I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for your time, man. It's good to finally speak with you.
Nah,
Uh,
it's great to be on.
yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, we've been speaking for a while now since February.
Yeah,
Been a big fan of your work. Since 2019, and yeah, man, been super excited to have you on. I know you've got an awesome record. You've got 3 wins out of 6 fights. Three very
yeah,
impressive wins. You had 5 fights in 2019. I think
yeah.
was it March, June, September, and 2 in November as well.
2 in November. Yeah.
That's
I
amazing,
wanted.
man.
I kind of missed out. I felt like I started a bit late, so I kind of wanted to get experience in as quick as possible, get as many fights in. It had its pros and its cons,
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, it was worth it. And if I could, and we hadn't had a lockdown, I'd probably have another 6 or 7 by now.
yeah. Of course,
Yeah,
man. I mean, five fights in 1 year is very impressive, man. And I know you're currently representing Range Martial Arts Academy in Gloucester
yeah,
with head coach Mark the Wizard Weir, one of
yeah, yeah,
one of the living legends in MMA in the UK. Famous for his having one of the fastest knockouts in UFC
yeah.
history as well. Ten
It's
seconds.
10 seconds. I think it's still the quickest debut knockout. If
Shit.
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah,
So I'll have to check that. But yeah,
yeah,
no, that stood for a while. I'm quite lucky to have a coach like him in such a small place where I'm from.
for sure,
Uh,
for
so I'm
sure.
quite fortunate.
And that win was also at UFC's first event in the UK. I think it was UFC 38 as well.
Yeah, brawl in a hall.
Yeah, man, yeah, and also he was the first WEC champion from the UK as well.
Yeah,
Ranked number one in the UK for over 8 years. So fighting out of a gym like that is incredible. And I know you represented Team England in IMMAF World
yes.
Championships in 2019, which was held in Bahrain. Unbelievable, man. Great
Um,
record. So yeah, sorry.
yeah, no, that was an experience. Not something I was expecting. Obviously, only been fighting for a few months. Only been back training for about a year and a half at the time after like injury and stuff. So it was really good to go out there and experience that. It didn't go the way I planned to. I broke my hand while I was out there. Uh,
Shit.
yeah, first round broke my hand, but you live and you learn. I'll return, and next time I'll win it. Hopefully,
Of
I
course,
will
man.
win it.
No doubt, no doubt. And I mean, that must have been an amazing experience traveling out to Bahrain. You fought alongside some of UK's biggest up and coming prospects in the MMA scene, and also alongside some of the world's biggest prospects as well in MMA.
Yeah,
So no
I
doubt that
had
must have been amazing for you.
for sure. I had two of my teammates go with me. They both fought. Kieran Williams also a welterweight from my gym. We both went, and Christian Duncan, who's on Cage Warriors fighting tonight. So I was
Yeah,
quite
yeah,
fortunate
yeah.
to go with him.
Amazing, man, amazing. And how was that whole experience for you? Traveling. Was that your first sort of time that you traveled outside of the UK to fight?
To fight, yes. I didn't know what to expect really. It was more, if anything. It was a bit of a shock. I was expecting it to be big, but when I walked out, it was a lot to take in. It was different. I was expecting it to be a bit smaller. Um, the crowd there was good. The amount of cages, the amount of people fighting at once, it kind of you'd expect it to take over you a bit and make you a bit nervous. Which nerves aren't bad. It did a bit, but at the same time, I just could not wait to get out there and just try and show everyone what I can do. As I said, it didn't go the way I did. You go back, you do it again.
Yeah, exactly, man, exactly. And I mean, the experience that you got from it must have been like no other as well.
Oh yeah, 100%. Obviously, you're seeing the best in the world in the amateur level. I'd say that they're probably better than some of the pros that are going out there. Um, to learn and like to go with these people and like you get to train with them in between, and you make new friends with people from other parts of the world that are training. It's one hell of an experience.
For sure, man, for sure. And how 5 fights in 2019 and then one fight in 2020, which you won by very impressive fashion as well. How how was it? I mean, how was 2020 for you as a year? I know for a lot of fighters they didn't get the chance to fight. A lot of promotions weren't going ahead. How was it for you?
At first, it was hard. Obviously, I was craving for a fight, like more than anything. I've gone from having that many fights in a short amount of space to nothing, but I kind of turned it in my favor. I started training for my first ever marathon, which I ran in the summer.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, I kept training with in other ways at home with my friends, like when we could, and then as it went on, like when Christian had pro fights, I would help prepare him in any way I could. So if anything, I think that the whole lockdown has prepared me better, and I think I'm going to come back as a better fighter than I was before. I've learned new skills and worked on my technique a lot better, and areas that I needed to strengthen. Like having those amount of fights in such a short space has allowed me to see what I need to work on, and I think that that's progressed a lot. And when I come back, it's going to be a completely different game.
Amazing, man. And I mean, what have you been focusing more on? Has there been a specific area that you've been trying to focus more on, or has it just been,
I've been working on my ground game quite a bit. I found that my wrestling, I'm quite good at like my wrestling. I come from a rugby background originally. I played rugby my whole life.
And you played for your uni team as well, right?
Played for university. I played in my hometown, and then I played for a team up north. I played at quite high level in the end. This is what put me out of sport. I had quite a bad injury. I didn't think I'd compete again in any sport. So to come back from that, I found rugby gave me that kind of natural edge for taking down, like to be able to take someone down, to wrestle, and to use my base against someone. And I just needed to tweak the final bit where when I'm hitting the ground, I wanted to make sure that I can keep someone there and I know what I want to do. So that's something I worked on a lot, more of the control on the ground than the submission. I think if I can control you and keep you there, tire you out, and then work on you and go for the submission from there.
Yeah. And I mean, speaking of takedowns, man, I've seen some of your fights, and you've pulled off some really incredible takedowns, in the middle of absolute wars. I know with Brotherson, I think it was the second round, towards the end of the second round, he came with a shot, and then instantly you just timed the takedown perfectly and took him down and kept him there as well, and ended up finishing the round off in full mount. So yeah, I mean, you amazing takedown skills. And I know you mentioned, you came from a background in rugby. I also noticed that you have a background in karate as well growing up. Is that correct?
Yeah. The first sport I ever kind of got involved with was karate. It was more of a hobby to kind of make friends when I was younger. But it's one of those things that you start with something small and it builds up and it isn't enough. So it started with karate. I love that, but there's no contact, there's no kind of feel for it. And as I got older, I wanted to move on to something more. I started training with Mark when I was 15, I believe. And I was on and off. Rugby was my passion at the time. That's what I loved. So I stuck with that. And then when I went to university, I traveled away. So MMA kind of became a full standstill. It wasn't until 2018, mid 2018, I started to get back into MMA. And that's when I kind of realized that this is what I want to do, especially after like my injury. Like I'd been told I wouldn't do sport. I kind of went back to it as an intention to strengthen myself and get myself back into a way that I could be. And I kind of just fell in love with it again. Wanted to carry on, wanted to fight. After my first fight, I lost my debut. I think the guy had really had experience. He was a strong guy, a big opponent.
Tough opponent.
And I just loved it. I didn't win the fight, but as soon as I walked out that cage, I said to my coach, "You got to get me another fight."
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. And I mean, where did the whole idea of, competing in MMA start? Like what sort of sparked the fire?
Well, when I joined Mark's gym, he has a program, like a recruits program, where you want to be a fighter, things like that. He will help you and work with you, and you work together as a team. We are like a whole unit. We bounce off of each other, we prepare each other as anyone else would. But I find that the way the recruit program works, it's more like a family. It brings us together in a different way that I can't explain. And as time went on, I just kind of, I don't know, it was a weird one. I just wanted to train at first, get stronger, like work on myself. And then with time, I was just like, I got to have a go. I'm seeing everyone else fight. I'm seeing everyone else enjoy themselves, and the team's doing great. I was like, I got to have a go at this.
Amazing, man. Amazing. And how much would you say that, I know you said rugby has played a key part as well, especially with takedowns. How much would you say your experience growing up, in karate and also in rugby, how much has that helped you, transition into MMA?
Karate side, I think that whole traditional style, it gave me a bit of a, seeing as I started MMA properly quite late, it gave me that kind of slight edge over anyone else that would start late, because I had the fundamentals to be able to do the basics. Like you'll see when I fight, a lot of my kicks and a lot of the way I move is very traditional. And it's something that I enjoy. I've got the long reach and the way it works. And I like that karate or taekwondo style fighting, which my coach comes from taekwondo.
Yeah.
So for me, that's worked perfectly. It's helped my style. I've worked out my reach. I've worked out how I can control people from there. And now it's time to implement that with what I've learned over the last year and a half. The rugby side has helped with my cardio. I mean, my cardio is probably one of my best things. Not always during my fight. My third fight was a nightmare. I worked nights. I worked security. It did not go down well. I quit my job after that.
Yeah, crazy hours.
I worked freshers the week before, so every single night I was working. Yeah. Went into that fight, and after the first round, I was like, I don't feel good. Still won the fight, but it didn't go how it should have gone. So, you know, we learn.
Of course, man. Of course. And speaking of your coaches, I mean, how has it been? You know, coming from a gym like yours, you know, training with legends like Mark Weir. I know you've got some awesome other coaches like Ali Mason as well, who is the BJJ and
BJJ, yeah,
BJJ coach, and also Danny Juskus, is it?
I've got Dan Woodford. I don't think Danny Juskus is there anymore.
Oh, okay, he's not there.
No, this was I think that was just before I come back. But we've got Dan Woodford, who helps with kickboxing, and we've got another coach with Jay, who works on the MMA side. We've got a well-rounded, very strong coaching team who have been together for a long time. And I think that's one of the essential parts. Like, you can have a good coaching team, but when they've been together and they work together and they know each other, you can bounce off of each other, and they can implement things in different ways to help you.
Amazing, man. And yeah, I mean, like, it sounds like your gym is producing some top level fighters. Like you said, you've got a teammate who's fighting in Cage Warriors tonight. How has it been, you know, having an amazing team like that? I can imagine it must be very empowering.
It's amazing. Like, especially with Christian, like I've looked at what he's done. I'm kind of like, I want to do that. You know, he was the Cage Warriors amateur Grand Prix champion for the middleweight division. He's an IMMAF, I believe, silver and bronze medalist. I think it's both of those. You know, he's done things that I'm looking at. I'm like, yeah, I want to do those, and he's done it in a time frame that's quite short. So, like, if he can do it, like, why can't I? I'll put the work in that he puts in. The whole team does. There's a lot of us that I think the next year or two, we're going to see a lot more fighters changing and going pro. We're going to see a lot of people doing things that we've not seen. And I think the team's going to be like one of those teams that's coming up, but everyone's not going to expect it.
For sure, man. I mean, it's a big name already, and you know, you can hear it, you know, definitely, you know, coming up, and a lot of guys are speaking about the amazing fighters that are coming from your gym. So yeah, man, amazing stuff. How important has the family, you know, given that 2020 was a rough year for a lot of us, how important was the support from your coaches, you know, from your family, from your friends and your teammates? How important were these people, you know, for you during those tough times?
It was essential. Without training, as I said, I did struggle. It's my way of getting a release and my way of expressing myself in one way. So we have a group, we talk, and, you know, we keep in contact, we talk to each other. Like when I ran the marathon, I ran it with one of my teammates, kind of egged him on to join me. So he came along, and we joined guys from another gym, but they ran in Liverpool, and we ran down here. We started at the same time, and we went on our way. So that was good to have my teammate with me. We worked together to get through that. I don't think I'd want to do it again.
Amazing, man.
Yeah, and family-wise, the family, like, you know, we support each other. That's what families do. We're there for each other. They I don't think they appreciate the sport I do as much because they can't understand it, but they know that I love it. So that's all that counts, really.
That's the most important thing. Yeah, awesome, man. And speaking of your marathon, I noticed, was that something that you had planned to do, or was that something, because I noticed you said you were doing 5Ks. I think, was it like a daily 5K challenge, and then suddenly you just ended up doing the marathon?
So yeah, I was running 5Ks and 10Ks daily, just trying to keep my fitness up. I didn't want to lose my cardio. I wanted to keep myself up, and I needed to keep myself doing something. And then a few of my friends who I met from IMMAF, they said that they were running a marathon up in Liverpool, and I was like, I'll jump on it, you know. I might as well have been running every day. I might as well find myself a new challenge to keep myself going, because, you know, that's how we do it. Like fighters, we need challenges. So I entered for that. I spoke to my team. One of the guys from the team said, you know what, I'll get on it with you. So I would have been running it on my own if he hadn't. We didn't pick the best route and the best day. I mean, it was 31 degrees, no clouds. And we ran a route that's just hill after hill because it was countryside. So it was incline after incline after incline. By the end of it, I was done.
Yeah. How long did it take you to complete?
I think it was 4 hours, which I wanted it to be quicker, but then I considered the fact that it was incline majority of the way. So I was like, you know, most runners do it on the flat, so I'll take that.
Holy shit, man! A marathon on incline, that must have been a killer.
Yeah, it was. I was struggling.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I mean, other than that, I mean, what were you doing last year, and also, you know, at the start of this year? What have you been doing to sort of stay active, and, you know, what's been sort of the driving force behind, you know, keeping that fire alive?
I got as much equipment as I could, to be honest. You know, anything that I could get to make a small home gym. With my family, I don't have much space to do that, and they didn't want that in the way all the time.
Yeah.
So I kind of had to improvise, find my own ways. So I bought my punch bags, got a bench press, got any weights that I could get, any resistance bands. I just kept buying equipment, and I was working out in the garden whenever I could. I was going across the road to the fields and working out. When things started to like relax a little, a few of the guys were meeting up, and we were just kind of like, we won't say sparring because it wasn't really contact. It was more of like a shadow spar against each other, just keeping each other's like reactions up and seeing what we can do. So we did what we could to stick together. And as I said, like when the fights came back for the pros, I was a part of the team that was used to prepare them. So I was fortunate.
Amazing, man. And that must have been, you know, great experience as well, like helping those guys train for their fights.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I got to use things that I've been dying to use, like elbows and getting to target people on the ground. You know, you can knee to the head and things like that. We're trying everything. And it's like these things I never get to do. And I'm like, I want to do these one day.
I can imagine. Yeah, for sure. And how, I mean, I know you mentioned recently you picked up an injury. How has that been for you?
Yeah, so I dislocated my shoulder, and I got a grade 1 tear on my ACJ joint going across my left shoulder. I did that in fight camp preparing Christian. Just fell funny on a takedown, both landed on it, pushed out of place. It's frustrating, especially when I've spent the last year and a half keeping myself prepared for kind of when things start to look like they're going to open up and shows are going to come back. It's like, oh, now you're injured. But I've taken it as it is. I'm going to keep training and keep myself fit and keep myself going. I've been working on it, strengthening it. I'm kind of at the end now of my recovery phase. Start working on strength properly now. And as soon as I get a call up for any fight, I'm going to take it.
Amazing, man. Amazing. No doubt 2021 is going to be a big year for you, man. And it sounds like you're the type of guy who, you know, who loves to fight, and it just looks like your game for just getting into that cage and just scrapping. So no doubt 2021 is going to be a big year for you, man.
Appreciate it.
Speaking of injuries and recovery, how do you sort of, you know, what are your kind of methods, and what were your kind of recovery, you know, techniques to kind of, you know, just get better?
I'm probably a pain in the ass for this because I hate taking time out. You know, we all do. I rush back. I'm pushing myself. I got an injury. I'll just play like it's nothing. I'll keep going. If it's anything more serious, like, well, I know this isn't serious in one way, but in the other, you can't train with dislocated shoulder and a torn ACJ joint. So I've just worked on it as, like, I went straight to the hospital, got it looked at, working with physio if I can, using the standard Rice technique that everyone uses.
Of course.
Now I'm working with like light weights, just slow movements like rotatory cuff, anything that I can to kind of get that that motion back and that movement back into my shoulder, and then I'll start to work on strengthening it after that. But I've had experiences like we got a guy at the gym whose dad's he does cold ice water swimming, like a world champion. So I took him up on an offer to get in the cold water bath and getting that. So he's got a barrel on the ground, dropped to, I think it was 2 or 3 degrees. I wanted to go lower, but he said, it's your first time. Just give this a go first. And I'm glad he did, because it was horrible.
Yeah.
Good after. I mean, after I was buzzing. But yeah, no, I'm trying out new things, experiencing new ways. I bought myself a Theragun, CBD oils, anything that's meant to improve and help. Just trying to take care of myself, the standard stretching, everything that you can do. I'm looking into functional patterns. Ali Mason at the gym actually spoke to me about that, about functional patterns, and said how it's improved him a lot. So I've been looking into that. So it looks quite good.
Amazing, man. Amazing. And I mean, you've been a sports person pretty much all your life, like you said, coming from rugby, doing karate since a young age. It sounds like, sports has been something that you've been part of all your life. It sounds like it's your passion. How would you say you've evolved over the years since back in the day when you first started?
It's a hard one. I've changed in many ways depending on the sport. So obviously with the karate, I wouldn't say I changed in any way. As I said, it was more for making friends and I just enjoyed it. And then as I went along, I kind of realized that I needed more than just that. With the rugby, I've changed everything from my mindset to the way I was built. Like for the position I wanted to play, I wasn't the right build. So I had to work on that and on my strength. Because I started off as a winger and I absolutely hated that. I'm fast. I get that. It makes sense. But I want to be in the forwards. I want to be in with a tackle. I want to be chasing the ball down. So I moved to flanker. So when I put some size on, I started strengthening up. I moved to the flank. We chase the ball. We go after the ball. We got a basic mindset. Just get where that ball is. Hit whoever's got it. And that made sense. And then when I moved to MMA, it became less about that kind of drive to just go after it, and more about the technique and more about seeing the little things, the little movements that change things, and evolving your mindset again. Because each fight's different. Each person you go against has different skills and different strengths. And it's about seeing what you have that they don't. It's about seeing what you can produce on the night. And it's also what you can produce in training and who you've got around you. So I think I've changed in ways that are needed for each sport.
Amazing, man. And you mentioned that you started training with Mark back in 2015, and your first fight was in 2019. At what point did you feel like, yeah, you know what, I'm ready, and I want to start fighting? At what point did you have that conversation?
It wasn't 2015. I was 15 when I first started training.
Sorry, 15.
Yeah,
sorry,
so that would have been about 2011.
Okay.
And I was on and off for about, it might be that year, I forget.
Yeah.
I was on and off for a year or two when I decided that I was going to move to university, college, then university. So training just went out the window. It was rugby only. Where I went, rugby was the sport. So, I stuck with that. It was in 2018 that I came back and trained fully. And then, a few months after that, I started training, getting back into it and getting my strength up. I wanted to fight. It didn't take long at all.
Amazing, man. Amazing. And speaking of fights, 2021, it sounds like a lot of, promotions and organizations are starting to, promote their fights, and things are starting to look like they're opening back up again, towards the latter end of the year. I think hopefully, UFC have just announced that they're going to have their first fight with fans in
Yep.
Florida. How excited are you for 2021 and getting back into that cage?
I'm buzzing. It's the best thing for the sport in a long time. We've been craving that. The UFC did things like Fight Island to try and keep people as interested as possible, and I think they did the best thing ever with that. Now the show's opening back up. I just want back on one. Like, I want Cage Warriors. That's what, more than anything. We're in the UK. That's the show to be on.
Yeah.
I'm also enjoying like smaller shows as well, where I'm learning things. So like I've been on Meltdown for 3 fights, and that's where I got my 3 wins.
Yep.
So I enjoy that show. It's local. It's people that I know. My friends fight on it from my club. So I enjoy being on there. But I think the main thing for me is getting on that Cage Warriors and doing what others are doing, making a statement on the big show. And then when I go pro, that's where I want to be. So
awesome, man. Awesome. So Cage Warriors is the goal for this year.
Cage Warriors this year, yeah. As soon as my coach says, you got to fight on there, that's all I'm going to be thinking about. I'll zone out of everything else. Cage Warriors, that is everything.
Amazing, man. Amazing. And speaking of the local promotions as well, you mentioned, you fought 3 times on Meltdown Fighting Championships,
Yep.
3 wins on that. You've also fought on Cage, Stand and Strike, as well as
Yep.
Golden Ticket five promotions. How, what would you say would you say you've got your eyes set on any other promotions, locally? Are there any other promotions that kind of, you think maybe I'd like to give those a go?
Yeah, I'd like to try Raged. I think that's Swindon, quite a good promotion, some good fighters on there. And as I said, back on Meltdown again. I've done good on there. I think as I said, I've had 3 fights. You get a lot of the same people that go back to the same shows. So you've got a little crowd there that kind of see me fight 3 times and I've won all 3. So you get a nice little backing on you when you go back. So enjoy that. I wouldn't mind Golden Ticket again as well. I think the fight on that one, it was a bit of a controversial ending. He won at the end of the day, but that's what the judges saw. I personally, and a lot of other people didn't see that, but it is what it is. It's no hard feelings. It happens. It was a close fight. So I'd like to go back there and kind of make amendments and win on that show as well.
Awesome, man. So I mean, you've got a few options open for you, and it sounds like
I'll take fights anywhere.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. I think if 2020's taught us anything, it's to be ready for anything, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. Can't miss out.
For sure, man, for sure. And in an ideal world, I know, with the year that we just had last year, nothing is sort of guaranteed. But in an ideal world, how many fights would you like to have?
What, this year or before I go pro?
This year,
year. Okay. Before the end of this year, now how long we got left? I'll get another 6 or 7 in if I could. I'll take 2 a month if I can. Now I'd be happy. I think with what's going on and the amount of people that are going to want fights, it's going to be hard to get them. I'd say 5 more, 5 this year, and then next year maybe at that number again.
Another 5, yeah.
More than that, maybe.
More than that. Sounds good. And where does that drive and where does that motivation come from to just to have so many fights, to fight 5 times in 1 year? Where does that drive come from inside of you to just say, you know what, I'll have 2 fights in 1 month?
It's kind of changed. So when I started, as I've said multiple times, I've had an injury. I almost lost my leg, and I was told I'm not going to do sports. And I was kind of adamant I was going to prove them wrong. Like, they've said, no, you're going to keep your leg, you're going to be okay, but sport isn't on the table. And I was like, nope, this isn't happening. I'm going out there, I'm doing what I want to do. So I got back into MMA, and I was like, look, I want to train, I just want to strengthen up. And then with time, I was like, I enjoy this, I want to fight. After the first fight, it was just a buzz. Like, it's this feeling that took over me. I was like, I've proved them wrong so far. What else can I do? I've come back from no sport to fighting, and then within 6-7 months, I'm on the IMMAF team. I'm like, I just want to keep riding this wave, even though it's like ups and downs. That's the whole point of the sport, the amateur level. We learn, ready to go pro, and that's what I want more than anything: to go pro, make my statement, and try and build it to the top.
Amazing, man, amazing. And speaking of the IMMAF, how did that opportunity come about, and how was it representing your country?
Well, as I said, my training partner Christian was on the IMMAF team, and he was returning. A few of my other teammates had been on it the year previous, and the trials were coming up for this year. And I was told that I didn't have enough fights to actually be on the team, but I decided to go to the trials anyway, get involved. Like, it's more of a learning thing, like see what it's all about. So when I am capable of being on the team, I'm ready. I know what they want from me. So I turned up anyway, and I gave it my all. I thought, you never know, just do what you can do. And at the end of it, I spoke to one of the coaches, and I said to him, like, I know I ain't got enough fights, but I want to be on his team. And he said to me, like, we'll see what happens. If you can get some more fights in before the IMMAF happens, maybe we can see what, like, if you get on the team, it'll happen. So yeah, that was another reason for me to rack up those fights, get another 2 in a month.
Amazing.
So
man.
I did that. I got the call up, and I flew out to Bahrain. Hopefully my performance at that time, I said I broke my hand. That's not, I won't blame breaking my hand for my loss. At the end of the day, you can still fight if you. I didn't back out from it. I took him down. He knew I was injured. He rushed me. I evaded all his punches. I took him down, and I got caught in an armbar. It is what it is. It weren't what I wanted, but my performance wasn't what I wanted. But hopefully they know that I can do more than that and better than that, so they'll take me back and give me another shot.
For sure, man. For sure. And I mean, would you be keen to go back and?
Oh, if they called me out right now, I'd be going right now. I'll fight tomorrow.
Amazing, man. Amazing. And just to sort of finish off, you know, super insightful conversation, and you know, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you.
Yeah, sure,
Just
man.
to wrap things up, man. Three questions that we usually ask that we're really keen to know as well. So number one, first question, what would you say? You know, I know from a striking perspective, you know, I've seen you throw loads of kicks in your fights, and you know, switching it up with a lot of punches and takedowns,
Yeah.
amazing combos. If you could pick one strike, would you say, you know, there's one that you really like throwing? What would you say your favorite strike is?
Um,
It's a tough
that's a hard
question.
one.
It's a tough question.
Yeah, no, I like a lot of different things. It's it's probably going to be one of my kicks. Maybe my axe kick. You know, I'm not catching it every time, but I'm getting closer with each one. Like my first time I tried it, I caught the shoulder. The second time, I brushed the face.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones where I think if I catch that properly, it's going to be something that's going to be like, okay, this guy's got something that we need to see. It's a bit of a show move, isn't it? It's not something that's used all the time, because once you
Yeah.
use it once, people start to be like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
watch out for that.
But you've thrown it in some really good situations as well, and yeah, like you said,
Yeah,
it's
I
almost
tried
it's
to hide it
almost
with the
come off.
jab. I tried to hide it with the jab, and then I'll mix it in. Or if I do it, I'll usually throw the axe kick, and then after I'll follow it up with a straight, hoping that the axe kick will knock the hands down or something. Kind of like how my coach did in his kick for the UFC debut.
Yeah, awesome, man. So axe kick would be your number one choice.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. And number two, speaking of grappling, what would you say your favorite submission is?
I'm going to keep it to one of the basics, the rear naked choke. You know, I love it. It's one of those ones where you're a backpack, you got full control, and you might not necessarily just get it straight in. You've got to work for it. You know, people are good at defending it because it's expected so often. And when you do get it in, it's one of those ones where it's nice and tight, and you know you've got it. You're like, this is mine.
Amazing, man. So rear naked choke, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. And last but not least, doesn't have to be present. You know, it can be, you know, past. Who would you say are your top three favorite fighters of all time?
Okay.
It doesn't have to be UFC. It can be the old days, like in Pride or anything. But if you had to pick three favorite fighters of all time, who would you say? Am I right in guessing that Max Holloway might be one of those?
Max
Yeah,
Holloway's my number one.
I thought so. I thought so.
Yeah, I just like his style. You know, there's no one quite like him. He's breaking records left, right, and center, and he's constantly coming back, and he's at a young age still. So he's my number one. Robert Whittaker's my number two. Again, I want him to rematch Izzy, man. He needs to come back and get that bout. That'd be good.
He's fighting Gastelum next, isn't he?
Yeah, Gastelum
Gastelum.
next. You know, he's proved his point. He's ready to come back. I think Gastelum would be the next one, and then it has to be a title shot at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Number three, probably Chuck Liddell. You know, one of the guys that kind of from back in the day, someone that kind of made the sport who it is. You got to throw someone in there from back in the day for sure.
100%, man. 100%. Would you say he's one of, you know, the reasons, or not the reason, but would you say he was a big inspiration for you growing up?
Being honest, as I said, when I was younger, I didn't really know the sport too much. It was kind of when I was like in my early teens that I kind of got into the sport.
Yeah.
And my coach was he trained with Chuck Liddell. He was friends with Chuck Liddell, and he always talked about him. So I started watching him. He was like the guy that I kind of was like, okay, who is this? I'll look. And I was like, okay, this guy, you know, he's for real. Well, he was for real. He was sharp. I mean, he's still for real.
Yeah.
He'll kick anyone's ass, I think, if he wanted to.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he was one of those ones that I learned about. I learned about him a bit late, and I wish I learned about him at the right time. But you learn.
That's it, man. That's life, isn't it? That's life. You're here now, and sounds like you've got a big 2021 ahead of you. And
Cheers,
yeah,
man.
no doubt you're gonna achieve your dreams and get that Cage Warriors
Cheers, man.
shot. No doubt, man. No doubt. And I wish you all the best. And thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you. Yeah, man. Can't wait to see your rise to the top, and can't wait to see what this year's got planned for you. And yeah, can't wait to see you back in action.
Yeah, that's appreciated. Thank you for having me on. It wasn't something I was expecting to do, but I've enjoyed it. And yeah, anytime.
Sounds good, man. I'm sure this is not the last time we're going to speak, but for now, it's been a pleasure, man, and enjoy the rest of your day as well.
Yeah, man, and you.
Thank you, man. Speak to you soon.
Speak to you in a bit.
Take care, bro. Bye bye.